Hey. It is what? Friday, September 19th. Here, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the West Coast. I'm Brannon Beliso. This is Success Never Sleeps, where we as a collective are just trying to figure out this thing called life, right? We want to be successful in our businesses. That's different for everybody. And understanding that, I think, is a big part. I strive to master as a mentor, not a consultant, as a mentor. And I encourage you to first begin there. Know your purpose, know your why, know what it is you're trying to achieve financially too. Don't get me wrong, and work it from there. I can't wait to talk about today's subject. I just got back from Harvard, and we'll get into that in just a minute. So let's begin by thanking our sponsors. Tucson Market Muscles, My Studio, Kids Love Live Skills, LC Accounting, and Kin Creative. Again, companies I work with, companies that impact my business. I'm blessed to work with wonderful people, and all these people are wonderful people, and they've moved our industry in ways and directions that we never thought possible, with CRM systems, with innovative digital marketing, with progressive websites, with a character development system, good sound business practices with LC Accounting, and then, of course, having a really strong vendor that offers me fair prices, even with everything going on in the world, tariffs and all. I'm very proud of Tucson, the relationship I have with them and what they offer me. Cool. Hey, what's coming up? You guys got to get signed up. We have less than 2 months to go. 2 months to go. It's Time Life Freedom. 20 school owners will make the pilgrimage. They'll spend 4 days with us. We go everything through staff training, curriculum development, branding, social media, wealth building, mindset. We cover everything, and we do it really well. This is our 9th incarnation, our 9th year doing this, and 20 school owners have come as far as Australia, Germany, Canada, England, all over the world to spend 4 days, not 2, because the 2-day seminars are just fodder. Most people go to those 2-day seminars and they do nothing. They do what? Nothing. But we believe this definitely changes your life, shifts your mindset, and you walk out of here with actionable steps that are going to take you into 2026 and kick butt for you. So Marco will put that in the comments so that you have that link there. Get signed up. Hotel spots are booking up. Got to get your hotel booked. We have discounts for that. You can save money right now, $199 off the 4-day experience. Don't hesitate. Do it now. All right, it's time group mentoring, of course. We are mentors. We are guys and girls that sit there and work in our schools, growing our version of success. And we're super, super, super caring. We just got off our group call today. And, sometimes it's harsh. It is harsh, but it's done with love. It's done with your best interest. And it's done in such a way that I think it's unequaled by anything that's out there. And that's why we're not consultants. We are mentor. And it's time for you to work with mentors that are there for you, listening to you, helping you get the results you want. I think the big challenge is we want you to get our results. I am not you. We are not you. It's our goal to listen and help you cultivate an action plan and the information you need to do that. And I think that's what we do so well. And we just keep getting better and better and better. Hey, Bob Poole, Goals Martial Arts. What's happening, sir? What's happening? I was just on the East Coast, and it was an amazing experience. So let's hop right into that. So let me give you a backstory. About a week ago, it was, Tu reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, how'd you like to be my guest at Harvard?" Because he's there for 3 weeks, and he lives in the dorms. He sits in a pod with his study group. They do case studies, case study after case study after case study. And then, of course, I got to sit in the classroom, which was just amazing. I keep telling people it was like Goodwill Hunting, right? The sidewalks are made of cobblestone. All the buildings are brick. I sat in this amphitheater, all wood. It's like this. And you look down into the pit and there's the instructor, right? It's like straight out of a movie. And what was neat, though, I say it all the time. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I was not the smartest person in the room, and I loved it. I didn't have to be professor or disruptor or anything. I just needed to be. And it was the coolest thing to just sit there. We went up into the dorm and to, his living quarters, and they had to sit down and do a case study on trade wars with China. And I'm just sitting there and I'm listening to the talk and the thinking. And I won't call it higher level, but when their money is no longer an issue, right? As far as your own personal survival, your personal rent, your personal expenses, the thinking changes tremendously, tremendously. And I sat at a table, I kid you not, I think it might have been breakfast that morning at 7 a.m. Two shared later on. We had billionaire, $400 million a year company, $800. I mean, it's just, I'm sitting there looking at this and they're just guys and women, just people, you know, they're just people like anybody else, but they're thinking because they're not worried about how do I make rent? How do I get 10 new students? How do I do this? Um, was a thinking that resonated with me on every level. Now, it's easy to dismiss that. I'm not a billionaire. I'm only a small school owner, right? You can think that way. And that's probably why you're stuck at 100 students. I say it to my clients all the time. If you're a 100 student school and you want to be a 300 student school, guess what? Behave like a 300 person school. Get your staff in order to accommodate 300 people, even if you can't afford it. Take a loan, do what you got to do, because I don't want to be at 300 students and be teaching with a staff that accommodates 100. Because what'll happen to that 300 overnight? It'll knock right back down to 100. It will. So again, if you want to even move the needle in your business, hang around people that think differently. Think differently. And that's real important. And I learned that. That was the biggest thing at Harvard I gathered, is taking different things they were teaching for their businesses and other industries and how we can apply it to our businesses. You with me? Okay. So number one. And the case study was fundamentally the pods, like the pods you see in Japan, the little capsules you'll see at YouTube that people sleep in. It's called RoboPod. And they did it differently. 90% of the clientele were men. And they found a niche audience. They wanted to attract women. So the two key words that really resonated with the brand, write this down: safe and clean. Write it down: safe and clean. They even painted these pods in colors that were appealing to women. Now, I know my brand colors are red, black, and white, but you don't think I'm chomping at the bit looking at, you know, what colors can we add to this that will organically appeal to women and make them feel safe right away? Two, I went back and reviewed our cleaning procedures. Are we consistently cleaning, the bathrooms in between classes? Are we consistently tidying up once after school gets done with the mats and classes are starting? Consistently. Because if clean and safe is one of those variables, then it's one I would lean into. Another one which I knew right away with safety is every corner in our school is rounded. The pony wall, the top of the pony wall is rounded. The benches are rounded, right? Even the baby changing table is rounded, right? That's why we bought that one. Everything is rounded. Why? So kids don't bust their head. That's it. Does that make a mom feel safe all day, every day? And I wouldn't compromise. The contractor tried to tell me he could save me like 10 grand if they didn't have to round all these corners. I don't care. It needs to be safe and it needs to be clean. So, again, taking that information, they were able to come into a market that was man dominant because that's a sales guy, right? He'll go into a district, he'll service clients. All he needs is somewhere to sleep, right? He doesn't care if the bathroom's dirty or not. Gets up, brushes his teeth, throws his clothes on, and he's out the door. RoboPod changed that. Instead of crawling into a capsule, you walk through a door and you shut it behind you and you're able to stand up in this thing, right? Then when you lay down, you got to crawl into the sleeping space. But other than that, I thought that was brilliant. So it went viral. Women were posting all over social media. They grew their following to 30,000 overnight. And then it got stagnant. Guess what they did next? They hired influencers to promote their product. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was brilliant. So again, clean and safe. Write it down. Clean and safe. Okay. The next big thing I got sitting in the classroom that day was we need to identify our demographic. Right? They saw the demographic. Oh, it's all men. But all the men that are they're using these sleazy ones, and a lot of them are used for prostitution in those countries, right? So they sat there and said, okay, well, let's change this. right? So they saw an audience that was untapped. They saw an audience they could cater to. But the yin to the yang is they recognize the current demographic in that industry. So if I had to ask you that question, who is your demographic? Select it though, right? Be very selective. We can't be everything to everybody. And at first, when I watched two do that, because they do after school day camps and they do martial arts, they got rid of their adult program. Think about that. They got rid of their adult program and they became totally hyper focused, kid centric. So everything they do, everything they decorate, every lesson plan they design, they're not trying to jump through hoops. And as I redo our curriculum now, I'm looking at that going, wow, this is great for kids, but it's not going to work for adults. This is great for adults, but it's not going to work for kids, right? So am I going to design two different sets of curriculum, or are we going to phase out our adult martial arts program completely? That's the fence we're on. So we have a really good adult program with our fitness kickboxing. We always have, and we continue to do that, right? Because it's a feeder system, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So decide your demographic. Who is that demographic? Who is that demographic, right? And if you decide it's moms with kids, then ask how you can satisfy all of their pain points. And they didn't really use the word pain point a lot. He used the word delight. Right? He was this really cool Indian professor, and he was just the funniest guy. But he kept using delight. So once you know your demographic, in their case with the Robopod, it was women. So how do I delight this woman? Paint it in a color that appeals to women. 2, light it well. 3, place it in a location that a woman will feel safe. So you know where they put these things? Outside hospitals. Yeah, makes sense to me. I'm a nurse working a double shift, and I've only got a couple of hours in between. You give me this safe, clean pod to walk into, hang up my nurse's clothes, and then lay down? Absolutely. You give me a clean communal bathroom that I can shower and get ready for work? Powerful. But what they saw about that was they built an app. So I booked this pod through the app. I booked my time to use the bathroom in the app. And what they did, which was brilliant, they put them in locations where they have this network of people to draw from that will happily walk out of their apartment, come down, clean this thing. Imagine you can do that, right? And then you pops up on your app. Oh, it needs to be cleaned at this time. Boom. Everything was done through an app. So culturally, they were able to involve booking, cleaning, all that stuff in one domain, in one space. So culturally, they can nurture that brand. And I'm big on that too. I'm really big on that. Culture building. So we got it. We identified our demographic. How are we going to delight them? Think about that. Put it in the comments. How do you delight that audience, right? If I'm just borrowing from Safe and Clean, how do we delight the mom who brings in a 6-year-old kid? How do we delight them? I'll give you a small example. Yesterday, I had a kid come in, and he was a friend of a friend. He already done the class, right? And he was there for his first class. And I got it through Slack. The guy said, so-and-so, TJ said, I think it was, so-and-so is starting in this class. He's so-and-so's friend. Mom's goal is that he earns confidence because he's being bullied. Okay? Fortunately, the life skill we were on was confidence. And one of the drills that we do in this lesson plan is if a bully bothers you, you walk away. Use your words, tell them to stop, or go tell a teacher. A confident child will protect themselves that way. If they try to grab you, step back, put your hands up and say, stop, leave me alone, or I will tell the teacher, right? And I highlighted this kid. I had him come up in front of the class. I gave mom everything. I delighted that mom and son. Plus, they're on the mat with their best friend and his mom. I couldn't have had a better scenario, a perfect storm. But because the communication with what we do is so strong, I saw it in Slack. And I was able to 10x it. I was able to amplify and delight this boy on his first day of class. Perfect. So that's an example. So put it in the comments. How do you delight? How do you delight? And if I'm talking about safety, I just made that boy more safe yesterday. Will that appeal to a mom? Yes. And hopefully, if they walked into our bathroom, it was very clean. If they walked into the dressing room, it was very clean. If they're sitting in the waiting area, it is very clean. When they're looking into the mirror, it is very clean, right? And if I cover those two main pain points, safe and clean, it's universal. This is in Indonesia, and we're talking what? Pods, right? We're fundamentally talking pods, sleeping pods, and borrowing from that industry and bringing it into our industry. Cool? Yeah, I mean, it's just so amazing. And then I was up at 6:30 walking over to Harvard to have breakfast, right? With two and some classmates in the cafeteria. And I'm going to tell you, everybody was running. Another group was biking, and another group's in the river doing crew, right? The long skinny boats where they row like that. And that I realize is a big part of success. Health. Health is wealth. And these thinkers at Harvard didn't sit there eating Krispy Kreme and drinking a Coke for breakfast. Everybody there worked. And if I looked around me for the majority, everybody was pretty much in shape, right? They were going to the gym in the morning before classes, all of it. So I recognize that. If I'm going to be a level 5 leader, I need to consistently be healthy. If I'm going to be any good to my team or my family, I need to be healthy. So that I saw everywhere. Everywhere. I'd never seen that many people on the street. There were more people on the street running, biking, or doing crew than there were people just walking to work, right? Or walking to campus. So that, again, success leaves clues, right? Look at that. And I hope you're managing that well in your life. All right. Other thing I saw, which is identifiable and really was helped me in my mindset shift personally, was the way I viewed money. And I guess when you're up at 400 million, money's not really an issue anymore. I'm sure they're not worried when they're going to eat. They're not worried about paying bills or anything, right? I would think so at that level. So what I saw is the way they moved money and talked about money. It wasn't with the same sense of how I grew up, right? Money was a source of pain. We didn't have money. So it was what? I would ask for something. What do you think? We're made of money? What do you think? Money grows on trees? Or money is the root of all evil? And it's not. What I saw with this group of billionaires and multimillionaires is that money is just a tool. It's a tool. It doesn't define whether they're good people or bad people, because they had failed business dealings and they talked about that openly. They talked about their successes. They talked about building a company and selling it, right? There was no attachment to money. Money was just part of their, you know, their toolbox, their skill set. And they spoke of money in ways that a lot of people I know don't, right? People are still trying to make rent. People are still trying to keep the lights on. People are still trying to get 10 new students so their school stays above water. So the mindset with money is much different. Now, champagne tastes, beer bottle pockets, right? You can't sit there and buy an $80,000 Rolex watch when you can't even afford a Timex. Do they still have Timex? I don't know. So I saw that. And I know it's really, really hard to do because I still count my pennies some days. I still have to pay real attention to my money and how I spend it. But don't get me wrong, these guys live with budgets. They allocate their resources where they do, but money does not define them. Write that down. Money should never define them. Again, going to Wall Street, the movie. Remember when Martin Sheen said to his son, Charlie, you don't determine a man's wealth by how thick his wallet is. And I saw that. These were just regular people. You look at them, you didn't know. If two didn't point out to me, he's a billionaire. They have a 400 million company. You think they're just someone you see at the mall. They didn't move with any type of sense different than anybody else. They still needed to eat. They still needed to work out and sleep and all the rest. So I've always felt that way about money. So for me to sit with a billionaire or sit with a homeless person makes no difference. I look at people as people, and that's part of my gift. I don't judge people about how many zeros are at the end of their bank account. Simply not. And you could see in these circles, money was how they moved and worked. It was their purpose, their business, but money did not define them or determine who they were in the world. So that was a big one too. Here's one I really, really liked. And we just got off our group mentoring call and I shared that one piece of it with them. You need a feeder system. Okay. And for me, my feeder systems are the two martial arts schools. They feed me revenue so I can take care of my family's needs. They feed me revenue so I can invest for my retirement and grow my wealth and passive income. The feeder system feeds me so I can build Kids Love Life skills. It feeds me so I can put it into my consulting. Something needs to fund those other companies, right? So this one family business, their primary thing was construction. That was the feeder system. From that, they branched off into real estate. I think they branched off into building malls. They branched off, they were able to branch up because the feeder system, the construction company, was generating the type of revenue and profit that they could put into a new company, right? So instead of paying taxes to the government, it's okay if this company functions at a loss for a while. It's a new company. I need the tax write-off. And you hear that a lot with people with money. I need the tax write-off. Who's ever heard that one? You all have, right? I need the tax write-off. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So I heard that too. So what is your feeder system? Think about that. What is your feeder system in your business? And it should be, if on a more way to relate to it. Most people would say, well, my martial arts classes is my feeder system. In particular, youth karate. Okay, youth karate is your feeder system, so it's generating you the most revenue. Double down on it. Don't put all kinds of money into a beginning program, one that's got 2 students, right? If you have a feeder, which is your youth karate class, double down on it. Add more classes to the schedule. Spend more money on digital marketing. Build that program because you want it to be a beast. And that's the big thing I saw with the RoboPods. They really recognize we want to stay within our lane. Our guardrail is safe and clean. They wanted to add food and products and all that. They realized it wasn't going to work in the small space. 2, I'm in a pretty populous area. I can go get food anywhere within walking distance. So they stripped that away and they stayed with safe and clean. Safe and clean. That's what they worked with. And it made sense. It made sense. So it's the same thing here. I think we as an industry take on a lot of different programs. A lot of different programs. And that I have mixed emotions. My dad used to say this, don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? Study Kenpo, master Kenpo only. And I'm just an artist, so I like to paint with brushes, chalk, pencil. I have a lot of different mediums. Same thing here. I want to do Kenpo, kickboxing. I did Kung Fu for 3 years. I did Jiu-Jitsu for 4 years. I did Filipino fighting arts for 20 some odd years. So I like training in different things. And at the time, it worked perfectly fine. So it's the same thing here, right? It's the same thing here. You want to make sure that whatever that feeder system is, it's powerful. But don't add on all these other programs that you don't believe in just because you believe they're going to make you money. The professor stressed that. Once this company bore down on their purpose, they no longer were just simply looking at KPIs, profit and loss, right? Very simple, sterile environment. Once you fuel making money with purpose, everything changes. And the potential is greater. The potential is simply greater because of it. But as I always say, if you build your company based upon, simply dollars and cents, good economy, you make money. Bad economy, you don't, because you're a sales-centric business. And if we're talking, all these billionaires and this college professor at Harvard going, purpose, purpose, purpose. There's even a great one by, might be Peter Drucker. I know you can look that up, Marco, where it says, culture eats strategy all day long. It was written by a Harvard professor. It's either a blog or a book. Culture eats strategy. Meaning to say, if your strategy is sales scripts, upgrades, things like that, it will get gobbled up and destroyed by a business that's based upon purpose, that defines their culture, that runs with core values, that have sets of brand absolutes to move their business. To do what? Delight. I like that word, right? I call the professor kept saying, how do you delight, the demographic that you choose? Moms with kids, right? Moms with kids. It is Peter Drucker, the legendary management consultant and author. Yeah. The phase culture eat strategy is most widely attributed to Peter Drucker. Okay, there it is. There it is. Thank you, Marco. And so for me, I need to be mindful of that, right? When I first understood purpose, and that was via Steve Jobs and Apple, I really, really started exploring that. Now, God, that's got to be at least a decade now or more. And I saw that. I witnessed that during the pandemic. The people that were willing to go online with us, follow us into a parking lot, and then eventually back into the school. If we didn't have the culture, we wouldn't even be here. Sales-centric business do well because they're money driven, they're quota driven, they do well. They do well during good times, but bad times, they do very, very poorly. Okay, so again, stay with me. And when I look in Wikipedia and I see Black Belt Factory, right? I hear nickel and diming. Go to Wikipedia and look up Mick Dojo. Look it up, Marco. Look up Mick Dojo at Wikipedia. I believe it's still there. I don't want to say that it's gone. And give me some data on how they define that. And so again, studying that, studying Apple, studying Disney, studying Nike, that's what they do at Harvard. Case studies. This case study was on robopods, right, versus their robo cabins. And that's all it came down to. The robo cabins were born out of the pandemic. People were glamping, right, because it was safe to do outdoor activities. And so they invented a robo cabin, which was a cabin version of the pods. But there were so many challenges. They had to make them different sizes now because some were singles, couples, families. That changed. They needed to put them in locations where they could do ancillary products such as horseback riding, kayaking, safaris, whatever the case may be. But the challenge with that is it was inconsistent. The Robopod, $13 an hour. That's it. Consistently. And that I thought was brilliant too. Stay with me on this thought. They decided to make sure nobody could enter that market. As long as I keep my rates on the low end, because it's 13 to 20 bucks. If I keep it at $13 and I present a product to you that nobody can touch, you will never want to come into my industry. Wow, that's pretty cool, right? I think that's very, very cool. Well, there's the link, Marco, but give me some data of what it says about that, of Wikipedia, ChatGPT at Wikipedia. And so they saw that. So they basically, I don't know what the word is, but nobody could enter the market because nobody could touch what they do. So I thought about that as well, right? I thought about that as well. What does that look like, right? What does that look like? How do we, in our community, cancel soccer, baseball, basketball, or any other martial arts school? How do we corner the market with what we do? Think about that. How do we do that? That's really the answer, right? And I've used that question a million times. Why do I want to come to you versus Joe Karate down the street? Can you answer that question? Put it in the comments. So here's what McDojo says. A McDojo is a slang term in the martial arts community used to describe a school or dojo that prioritizes making money over actually teaching effective martial arts. The name is modeled after McDonald's, implying something mass-produced, commercialized, and focused on profits rather than quality. Common traits of a McDojo: high prices and contracts. Sound familiar? Locking students into long-term. Sound familiar? Expensive agreements with hidden fees. Sound familiar? Overemphasize on belts. Promoting students quickly. Sometimes called I don't know what that says. Black Belt Factory, probably. So you see where I'm going with that? And when they saw that in their industry, and what did their industry say? These were dirty. The pods are dirty. They're used a lot for prostitution by men, and they're not safe. So they needed to overcome that. So they created a whole new model. I did the same thing. When I saw what our industry was under this McDojo term, I decided no contracts, no belt fees, no hidden fees, no upgrades, none of it. I took all of it out. That's why people come to us versus Joe Karate down the street. Joe Karate down the street, belt fees, contracts, upgrades, black belt clubs. It made good sense to me. It made really, really good sense to me. And that was from the learning I got outside our industry. Because if I did what our industry said, it would have been contracts, upgrades, belt testing fees, all of that. Did I have belt testing fees in the beginning? Yes, I did. Am I glad I took them out? Yes, I am. Right? So again, it's huge. And borrowing from Too Late for a minute, from my studio, right? Total disruptor. CRM system. Nobody had it like them. He talks a lot about that, to be able to sit there, right? And create something that's so unique and so special that people will only want to come to you. I think that's just amazing. And he's done that. He's done that, right? When I saw him drop adult programs, I was like, what are you doing too? He goes, we're going to focus our product. We're going to be kid centric. Boom. You walk into his schools, every month's a different theme. If it's, a safari theme, the whole school's decked out in like giraffes and gorillas. And it's like, okay, that's what's going on this month, right? They took the kid centric holiday of Halloween and Christmas and turned it into a year round theme. Every month is a different theme. Again, because you're kid centric. But if you're, jumping between kids world and adult world, you can't do that. No adult wants to walk into a place dressed like Disney characters, right? Right? Or Star Wars. Well, Marco would want to come if it's Lego month. Huh, Marco? So I mean, he saw that and I thought that was so brilliant. So he says to me constantly, dude, and why he invited me to Harvard, he said, we need more operators. We need more operators that learn outside our industry. Because what's happening in our industry more than ever, once the super show went to the wayside because of the pandemic and the different things, we now have silos, these very small groups that only exist within this incubator of what they do. AI, big convention coming up. Real estate, big conventions. Consumer electronics show, big convention, right? These big conventions where they all gather is what we're lacking. Now, I'm not saying that we need to have the super show back. I'm just saying that if you sit in a silo with only people of your style, and we have a lot of that, and there's so much infighting, right? You have your own style, your own association. You only take business advice from the people within that Kenpo group or people within the Taekwondo group or whatever group that you're in. That small splintered group, I think, is going to breed an inconsistency in our industry. I would love it if our whole industry was governed by some type of board like the FDA, right? Some board that regulated the quality. But we know you don't even have to be a black belt to open a school. You can just open a school and teach without any kind of qualification, an AA, a BA, or anything. Anything. You could wrap a black belt around you and say, I'm a black belt. So I think now more than ever, as Tu reiterated, we need to start getting good sound information outside our industry. Because left alone in just this incubator or this silo of my, 50 to 100 martial art friends that run with me, eventually we start imploding because we just feed on each other. We all got to agree because we're this group here, right? Or agree to disagree. So again, it was a no-brainer to hop on that plane and be at Harvard. No-brainer. No-brainer. So I got that too. You have all these people from all over the world. 85% of the participants were from around the world. Why do you need to come to Harvard? You have a billion-dollar company. Why? Oh, why? Because I realize the reason they are where they are is because they're learners. They're consummate learners. They're always learning. They're always bettering their products. They're always on that path of constant improvement. Borrowing from Toyota, Kaizen, constant improvement. So I'm going to challenge you on that. When's the last time you've been to an event, a learning event outside our industry? Put it in the comments. When's the last time you've been to some type of learning outside our industry? And if you're here and you're hanging out, I talked to somebody today that says they watch our show all the time. They just don't log in and participate, right? I thought that was trippy. A lot of people do that. But, there's a great thing. You need to stand up and be counted. And by putting yourself out here and you're accountable, and it changes the game too. It changes the game. I'm always out here. For me, my accountability is so important. I need to consistently post, share what I've learned, help change our industry. That for me is really big. Good. All right. And then, of course, you selected your audience. The next part was, how do you wow them? And the next one is scale. How do you scale it? If you think about your business, we just, again, in our group mentoring, we had that conversation, right? You know, one of my, in our mentoring group said 175. I said, well, how do you scale from there? Because I've been kind of stuck over the past 4 months, summer and all. I said, up and down, up and down. How do you get to that next level? I said, well, if you're at 175 students, behave like a school with 300. You want to get to 300? Then behave like a school with 300, right? Because I asked them that question. If you were at 300 right now, would you be able to accommodate it? No. And you'd lose them just as fast. Why spend all that money, time, and effort to get to 300, only get to knock down to 200 overnight because the infrastructure is not there? The system for training staff is not there. None of these systems are there, right? So the band played on, and I saw that too. All these people at Harvard talked about slow and steady. Incremental growth is better than spikes like this, right? Because they're an anomaly. They're an anomaly. They're not the norm, right? And again, he kept saying that, this college professor. A good normal business, not a bad day. Not a bad day, right? Not a bad day. The RoboPod, not glamorous, $13 an hour. It was systemized. So it didn't depend upon the owners being there. The RoboCabins depended upon the owners tremendously. Negotiating these deals, all the ancillary vendors, who's going to supply us with water, who's going to supply us with food, who's going to, go out there and look at the different activities, whether it's kayaking or whether it's horseback riding or ATVing, what, right? And you can't control that quality. So when the day was done, I thought and believed the RoboPod was a better call. The professor said it was, and half the people in the room did. Typical entrepreneur. I want to do both, right? But you don't have that bandwidth. So going back to your programs, and discussing of keeping it simple, look at your programs. Is there anything you need to dump? Is there anything you need to stop doing? Write that down. Is there anything in your programs you need to stop doing? Think about it. Maybe it's that new class with 3 people at a prime hour, like 6 o'clock on a weekday. Right? Maybe you need to stop doing all these different colored t-shirts because it dilutes your brand. And you think it's making you money, and you sell maybe 30, 40 t-shirts. At what cost? Where people don't trust your brand because there's all these different colors in it, right? Think about that. Think about that. And for me, that's important. My brand is a whole nother thing, but I heard that these purpose-driven brands were really the heart and soul of most of the attendees at Harvard. What else did I get out of Harvard? Man, I'm still on cloud 9. It was just so amazing. I found myself having lots of conversations with people, initiating conversations and listening. Because you make $400 million a year. I want to know why. I want to know how you tick. I want to know how you think. And those opportunities are everywhere. Go into your community right now. You could probably find some family that owns half the block. Talk to them. How'd you get here? Success leaves clues. Right? But again, I'm a black belt. I know everything. So I don't want to sit in this room with you because it makes me feel really insecure. I feel inadequate. I know nothing about business, and the band played on. I witness that all the time. And it's conveniently wrapped in excuses. I tried that. It doesn't work here. Da, 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 da. Okay, then it won't work. But I didn't see that at Harvard. I saw free thinking. I saw open-minded thinking. I saw everything's possible. And what that brings to the table is hope. And if that parent walks through your door with a 6-year-old child and you can instill hope, everything changes. So what are you doing in your school? that really, really, really offers them hope. One of the things we do, which you're welcome to, write it down, you can have this, is we share with the parents. No child is born with the life skills such as confidence, discipline, or focus. The good news is, through our martial arts and life skills program, your child will get those life skills. Powerful, so powerful. Because what it does, it puts that parent at ease. I'm delighting that parent that there's nothing wrong with your child, right? That they just haven't learned the skill set, and they can learn that skill set. So again, the delighting part, all of the things I saw reflective in Harvard, we're doing a lot of it. Don't discount it, folks. We are doing a lot of it, but we need to do so much more, so much better. You with me? We can do so much more, so much better. And if we can do that, the potential to grow our schools to where they work for us are there. But it means that fixed mindset needs to go away. Go away. This one guy at Harvard, I don't know, had like 5,000 employees or something bizarre, because he realizes he can't do it alone. He cannot do it alone. It's the same thing here. I can't do it without a team. The team can't do it without our students and families. So all of them need to be nurtured. They're all individually their own feeder systems, right? I take good care of my team. They're there to help me grow. I take good care of my parents. They're going to love being there, right? I take good care of the schools, business practices, stay within my budgets, all the rest. We produce this machine, this feeder system that will feed the other activities that you need. Yeah. As you see, I took in a lot. When you're not the smartest person in the room, you got nothing to lose. And how am I going to stand toe to toe on that type of business level with anybody that was there? I mean, don't get me wrong. Nobody's better than anyone. We all go on the ground the same way. If you're a billionaire and you die, you go on the ground the same way as the guy who's, 60,000 a year and he dies. You're both going in the ground the same way. So once you get past that insecurity and fear, you can look at people that are doing that kind of revenue and just sit there and take it in with an open heart and an open mind. So, what are our big takeaways today? What are our big takeaways? What did you get out of today? Anybody? Go ahead and put it in the comments. And when we post this one, I hope people watch this one again and again and again. Because, I've already gotten a mixed bag, right? Well, Harvard can't help what we do, right? They're not martial artists. They're not our industry, not anything. Well, what? That's not what this was about. This was about exposing myself to learning that might inspire me to think better, think different, think greater, think more, right? Think more. Instead of hiding behind the insecurity of a black belt, that doesn't work here. I do it the way my teacher taught me. Okay, you can do that too. But make that choice. And again, the inspiration two Lay offers me, one is as a business person, two as a visionary, three as a friend, is without parallel. I feel blessed every day with that relationship. He thought of me. He's the one who reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to come to Harvard?" Yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do. And I think I might take the program. I'm going to count my pennies, take a look at it. I learned more in the 6 hours I spent there total than I probably would at a 2-day event for some martial arts thing. Why? Because thinkers like that are creating things. We're still selling you contracts and sales scripts and upgrades. We're still selling you that stuff and telling you that's what you need to do to make money. Okay, that's fine. So what are your takeaways? Come on, help me out. What'd you get out of this today? Anybody? Put it in the comments. And while you do that, I'm going to start wrapping this up because I got to get on another call today early. Let's start by thanking our sponsors. Who do we got? Tucson, Market Muscles, My Studio, Kids of Life Skills, LC Accounting, Kin Creative. Reach out to them. right? A discovery call costs you nothing, but the learning you might get from it to help you grow your business, astronomical. It's Time Life Freedom. Again, super proud of this event. Only 20 school loan owners for 4 days. You can come for 1 day or 2 days, and we get that as well. But it's really the 4 days, that immersive learning that really, really helps you get unstuck, that gets you from where you are today to where you need to be. And it creates that freedom. So that's coming up when? November 8th through 11th, right here in Millbury, California, 5 minutes from SFO. Great discount on a hotel. We cover 90% of your food, in that investment. So do it today. 20 school owners, don't miss out. Schedule a discovery call with our team. Our team is always ready at the It's Time Group Mentoring to meet with you, talk with you, and just see if we can be of service and support you. Cool? All right. So I got no takeaways today. I hope you watch this one again and again and again. I hope you join us in November, right? Those opportunities, much like reaching out to me, those kind of opportunities don't happen all the time. Come join us for 4 days. It'll change your life. Cool? Where can they find me, Marco? Everywhere, right? You can find me everywhere on all the podcast platforms. We're at Apple, iHeart, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher. Wow, listen, we're everywhere, huh? Everywhere. Follow me at Instagram, and for everything else, go to brannonbeliso.com. Cool? All right, so we're going to wrap this one up. I am Brannon Beliso. Thanks for hanging out today with me. I hope you learned a lot. Please, learning outside our industry is something I advocate for, and I think can really have the potential to change our industry. Until we talk again, what are you going to out there and do? Live your best life.